And we're back with the Invested Fathers. I'm your host, Kenny Johnson, and today I'm joined by my friend, Jono Allen, founder of Larnach Capital, where he helps investors build wealth that ultimately elevates people and blesses families and communities. Jono has spent the last decade working in corporate banking and finance, but his journey has also included 10 years of investing in real estate, from flipping houses and duplexes to land development, and now multifamily investing, an asset class he discovered when he came here from New Zealand to America. Today, he's actively invested in more than 1,400 apartment units and is helping manage multiple multifamily projects. But this episode really isn't about real estate. It's about motivation, intentionality, and figuring out how to align your faith, your work, and your family life. If you're a father, a business owner, an investor, or simply someone trying to balance work, faith, and family, I know this conversation will really encourage you. Enjoy this episode with Jono Allen. Welcome back, everybody, to the Invested Fathers. You'll see the red, white, and blue behind me. I'm a patriotic guy. I'm joined today by my friend, Jono Allen. Jono, welcome to the Invested Fathers.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Kenny.
Jono, tell us where you are today and what you've done so far this morning.
Sure. Okay. Well, today I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm originally from New Zealand,
Okay.
a little further south, as you may be able to tell. This morning, I work from home. So I work in commercial real estate, passive commercial real estate investing. So this morning has just been speaking to investors, and that's been about it. I've got a lot of work done this morning. So yeah.
This is one of those rare moments for me. We have 3 kids at home. And my wife has 2 of them at a doctor's appointment, and my one daughter is with my mom at the drop-off daycare. I don't know if anyone out there has that, but so it is an empty house. You have kids as well?
Yes. So I have a 4-year-old daughter and an 18-month-old son who's currently napping. So he could wake up at any moment.
Okay, perfect. I was hoping to have some type of real, this is dad's in the trenches sort of episode.
Yes.
Where, we'll hear kids screaming and whatnot. So let's just jump right into it. Guys, today's episode, I'm gonna let him share a little bit more of his journey of where he is, where he has been and where he goes today. But this is really a theme of taking risks and really figuring out what your motivations are in doing whatever it is you're doing today. So Jono, before I get too far into it, tell us a little bit about your career journey, where you started, where you are today, and we'll kind of dive deeper after that.
Sure. Okay. So I'm currently, like I said, I'm self-employed, commercial real estate investing, but I've actually spent really the last 10 years in banking and finance. But I'll go back one step further than that. When I first went to university, I studied theology because I thought I wanted to be a pastor. I got halfway through my degree. Actually, I studied in South Carolina at Bob Jones University. So I got halfway through my study and realized I love the theological studies, love what I'm learning, but I don't think I'm called to be a pastor. So I completed my degree and then went back home to New Zealand, studied economics, and then got into banking, actually by accident. Turned out I really enjoyed it because that's a great combination of working with people, problem solving, and working with numbers. So I really enjoyed working in banking, finance, and I did that for the last 10 years. Worked my way up from giving out home loans and personal loans in a branch up to my last banking role, which was, it sounds more fancy than it was, but a vice president of leverage finance at Fifth Third Bank. It was a pretty fun job. And then I went into business consulting for a while after that. But actually, during that same 10-year time period, I've also been investing in real estate. So I bought my first rental property in the same year that I got my first job. It was a duplex. I put a lot of work into that, did most of the DIY all by myself, except for some parts where I needed a qualified contractor to do electrical and plumbing and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we did some rental properties, duplex, we did a subdivision, a land flip, all that kind of stuff. And then, so that was it. That was in New Zealand. So my first, say, 6 years of real estate investing was in New Zealand, and we did well. And when we moved here to the US 4 years ago, we sold up our portfolio, and I thought we would just get back into single family rentals when we got here to the US, but I could well, I had at least two problems. One was we had a newborn child, and I couldn't really find enough time to even go find a property. It takes a lot of time to go and find a good rental
Yes.
property. I couldn't find time for that. And then the second problem was we live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the house prices are, I guess they're fairly high compared to some other cities. So it was really difficult to make the numbers work on a property. So I actually just sat on cash for at least a year trying to find an opportunity. I couldn't. And I found that very stressful because, there was inflation going up at that time. So you're losing money just from inflation, also losing money from opportunity cost by sitting on cash. But then I discovered a whole asset class I didn't really know that I could get into, multifamily passive investing. So I invested in a few apartment blocks with some others, and then that really began my journey on getting right into multifamily. So I'm in 8 multifamily properties now, and I've switched to doing that full time. So I invest in commercial real estate, and when we invite other investors to join us, my business is as simple as that. So I'm doing that full time now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Does that
that's my
mean
story.
no more single family at all?
Yeah, no more single family. The only thing we have close to single family is we have got our current house set up as an Airbnb so that
Okay.
when we go away for like a 1 month trip to New Zealand, we can put our house on Airbnb. But that doesn't really, I don't think that really counts.
No,
So
no.
apart from that, no single family. Yeah.
Okay. You know, if you don't mind, the theological pastor story kind of
Mm,
jumps out a little bit to me because I mean, I see if someone says, "Hey, I want to be a pastor or I want to study this," that's a really big decision to like, I'm going to follow this path. Not that you,
mm-hmm,
it's a, if you're a banker, you stop serving the Lord. That's not obviously the other side of it. But
mm-hmm.
could you walk us through like what made you feel that way or like decide like, you know what, I'm not called to be a pastor? Did a conversation happen or did the Lord just sort of, you prayed about it and he said, I'd rather you do something else? What were your
Well,
how did that
I,
happen?
I guess it probably started in, I don't know, sometime in childhood or teenage years. I'm not sure, but you know how, well, you can be taught it, which is incorrect, or you can get the impression that, if you really want to serve God, if you really want to, please Him, then you should do something like go be a missionary or a pastor.
Hmm.
Some churches might teach that, which I think is not correct. But
Hmm.
it's very easy to get that impression, think, oh, yeah, if I'm really serious about my faith, I should do something like be a pastor. So I
Hmm.
guess I enjoy theology. So I received a scholarship, full scholarship to go and study. So I kind of thought, well, maybe it seems like I'm being led in this direction. But probably about halfway through my studies, I could see everyone else was really, well, most other people in my classes were very excited about being pastors. And I could tell that based on their skills and their, aptitudes, they're definitely called and equipped to be pastors. I just didn't feel like I didn't have that sense of urgency or just quite the right skills and desires for that. I was more interested in business and investing and that kind of stuff. I
Got
just
it.
it just came down to I don't think God was calling me, and the reasons I had for it, I realized were maybe incorrect reasons. I kind of
Yeah.
I kind of felt like if I don't go train to be a pastor, who will? If I don't go lead a church, who will? God kind of needs me to do this, which is pretty prideful, a bit arrogant to think that if I don't go do some training, there's going to be a church with no pastor and God's going to have an issue. So maybe some pride or arrogance there, trying to save God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to put it because I think I've probably heard something like that, from the pulpit. Like, if it's not you,
Mm-hmm.
who's it going to be? It's got to be you. Like, stand up and, fill the gap
Mm-hmm.
here. And I think there's truth to maybe like there, if you're waiting for someone to lead in, or something to change, maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance maybe that, you won't see somebody stand up and do it. And if you're able to do it, maybe go for it.
Yes.
I think that's something that I think in the groups I'm in the, group projects, whatever it is, community, church stuff, if, "Oh, who will help do this thing?" And, everyone's kinda sitting there. I always kinda feel that burning, like, should I do it? Like, is it me? I'm a little nervous. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it. I was a little tired this morning, but I think, I don't. So, but that's an interesting, just kind of understanding the way you're wired. I studied graphic
Mhm.
design in college,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
I was sure after college that this is not what I want to do after college. Of
Mhm.
course, I figured that out. So I think it's very, very common for people to switch and change.
Mhm.
And let me transition a little bit here. So from trying to figure out a little bit of like your background there and sort of why you did what you did, and would like to hear more about the investing because that seems to be where
Sure.
you've parked. But
Yeah.
before we get there, how you've recently moved to doing this full time.
Yes.
So help me understand a little bit of what has been some of these most recent changes or maybe aha moments of change. I feel like change in general is something that we avoid, but also know that we should be adapting, changing, all those
Mhm.
things. Give us a little bit of the most recent change in your life in that way and what spurred that.
Well, yeah, so I've been working on this business on the side for, probably about 18 months, and I've been slowly growing it, and I kind of got to the point where I was ready to jump off and take it full time. I probably wanted There were maybe a few obstacles. One was I was maybe too comfortable. It's easy to be comfortable and therefore not make a change because quite often change is not comfortable. So, giving up consistent salary to go start a business, you're putting all the bets on yourself at that point. So it's a little uncomfortable and it feels like it's a challenge. Feels like
Mhm,
a bit of a leap of faith. But I think maybe the aha moment, or maybe a series of aha moments over maybe a period of 2 months, I did some serious inventory taking of myself. So I put a lot of prayer and thought. I actually got this big, pretty comprehensive prayer journal for this type of decision making.
mhm,
It just goes through like what is your calling, how are you equipped, what are the desires that you have. Basically, taking inventory of all the things that God has given you, and praying through them and thinking, okay, if God has equipped me with these skills, desires, purpose, calling, what has He equipped me to do next? And so it just seemed like it was pretty obvious that based on everything God has equipped me with, all the opportunities, starting this business seemed like the next right thing. Definitely scary.
mhm,
And it feels like my trust is in Him to make this happen. But
mhm,
I, I have a very unusual amount of peace about it because I believe that He will provide. I definitely still have a thorough business plan. I've got a big projection and I know all the sort of key metrics that I need to hit to make it work. So I'm not going on blind faith. I have a definite plan, but I know at the end of the day, God's going to provide. And I think He's calling me to this. So it takes faith.
yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing that I was a little curious about, you said you started this thing 18 months ago and have been growing it.
Hmm.
What was the spurring of starting this thing, the commercial real estate stuff? How did that start? And was that like a big shift as well? I mean, this was 18 months ago, and I think you said your second child is also 18 months. Is that
Uh,
right?
yes. So I started doing this, yes, at about the same time that our 18-month-old was born. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I invested in a couple of multifamily deals as just a straight passive investor.
Yeah.
So you just read the investment presentation and understand it, and then you invest, and then you don't have to do anything else except just receive your monthly check and then a big check at the end when it sells.
Yeah.
But the guy who I was investing through, he's a friend of mine. He said, "Hey, Jono, you've got all the right skills and experience to be doing what I'm doing, which is helping other people invest in these opportunities.
Mhm.
I could show you how to do this. Would you be interested?" So he showed me each of the steps, and each step did feel a bit nerve wracking. I mean, it seems pretty simple looking back. He encouraged me, okay, make a list of your contacts who you think could be interested in going into these opportunities with you, and then strike up a conversation, call them, figure out how you can add value to your connections and see if they're interested in investing with you. And it's really one of the beauties of the model that we follow. As a real estate syndication. So I'm one of many parties making it happen. So the whole deal doesn't depend on me. If I were doing like if I were buying 10 units and I'm purchasing it, I'm running the whole thing. I need to, that almost feels a little bit harder because I would need to make every aspect of the deal happen.
Mhm.
Whereas in a syndication, there are lots of people making it happen. So it's
Mhm.
less reliant on a single person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let me let me go here. I'm trying to think of okay, so yeah, I think business wise, I love the parts of your story with faith. I think someone could be listening to this and maybe think, well, Jono didn't do the faith thing earlier on. He did the banking thing. Okay,
Mhm.
so pursuing money
Yeah.
or, the skill sets are different now. But even like in the 3 or 4 conversations I've had with you,
Mm.
you've always kind of brought in like, hey, does your audience is your like a faith audience, a Christian audience, or like you've always kind of brought that in. Could you give me
Mm.
and I kind of want to tier this into fatherhood as well. Give me how your faith has not been a hindrance to your
Mhm.
journey, but like the platform almost, the
Mhm.
foundation, through the career journey, but also as the kids have been, getting a little older, you're seeing yourself now,
Mhm.
obviously the provider, but leader in the family. How has your faith played a role through the last 5 years, 10 years?
Sure. Sure. So I have always felt like, yeah, maybe I've always felt like faith and finance were two
Right,
different things. So
right.
I was going to go, in the faith direction of being a pastor, but then I ended up going in banking. So went the money direction. I always thought those were two separate interests. So on one side, like I've always been involved in church, like helping lead the worship services or leading small groups, that kind of thing. I'm getting to use my theology, so getting the faith side in. But then my day job is in banking, and I love the numbers, but I never saw how the two could meet and come together. It's really been in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I've realized those two things actually they can come together. There doesn't have to be this sacred secular divide. So what I'm trying to do with investing is trying to answer the question: well, what would happen if there was no divide between sacred and secular faith and finance? So the way, like the kind of property you buy, how how can your faith play into that? So are you going to choose to, on one end of the spectrum, be like a slumlord, where you're just trying to maximize the amount of money you get out of the property at the expense of your residents? Or can you think of a property as a way to provide good, clean, safe places for people to live and have families and community? So you're actually offering them something really good. And as a Christian, I think that's a valuable thing you're providing. You're serving your residents. If you can layer in things like, some real estate opportunities, you can get like a chaplain to be and to live in your community. Try and strike up these conversations or try and increase community relationships. There's so many ways that you can bring faith into it. And one of the interesting things is when you serve your tenants or your residents, a lot of people think, well, you're just going to be wasting money and your profits are going to go down. That's not necessarily the case. If your 200 residents are all really engaged in a thriving community, do you think they'll want to move on? What do you think that will do to your occupancy? People are going to tend to stay for longer, which is good for your business. So that's on the investing side. So how do faith and finance, or faith and money, come together with like being a dad? Well, for me, again, I used to have a bit of a divide. Like, okay, during work hours, I need to be trying to just amass as much wealth and success as possible, and then in my family hours, there's just time with family. And I hope the two things don't compete too much. But I've now realized like there's actually a way of bringing those two things together. Even so, for example, investing in real estate and trying to focus on passive income, it has been a way that I have been able to reclaim my Saturday mornings. I know it sounds very simple, but I've made the decision. I'm going to hire someone to mow my lawns, and we're going to hire a cleaner. The passive real estate income, it helps us be able to do that. But what it means is on Saturday mornings, typically the plan is I'll go with the kids for a hike in our local greenway. That is time that we just get to all be together as a family. Hopefully, my wife can come. Sometimes she needs a break, so it'll just be me and the kids. But that is like time where I get to be present with the kids. But our portfolio has helped us to get to that position where we have that opportunity. So you can make the two buckets serve each other and work really well together.
Do you guys have a chaplain for every community multifamily thing you guys do? Like, do you try to find someone to
oh, we,
lead a chaplain?
we don't currently, but we're currently investigating how we can integrate that more. There's one of our properties where we're trying out that sort of thing. So on actually June the 20th, in one of our properties in Charlotte, we're having it's called a serve day. So any and all of the investors on that property are invited to come and serve the residents. So we're going to walk around so it's, I think, 240 units. So we're going to walk around the campus. It's going to be a prayer walk. I go to a PCA church, so it seems I normally pray standing in one place, but it'll be a great experience. So we're going to have a prayer walk. We want to bless this community. We're hosting a summer launch day, but later in that day. So we've got like a water slide. There's going to be like a fire truck. There's going to be
Cool.
hot dogs, all sorts of things. We just want to try and create an opportunity to serve our residents and try and foster some of that community for that property. I know
Yeah.
that's just that's just a single day, a one-time thing, but hopefully it can become
Something.
something more.
No, it's
Yeah.
great. And then I love the Saturday mornings with the kids. I think that's a great practical. That's one of the things I like when I bring on these guests like yourself is,
Hmm.
you have a different walk of life than I do. Your kids are maybe a little different age, whoever. If you're listening, and this might spark an idea with somebody to say, "Hey, the mowing, the cleaning, can I
Hmm.
intentionally try to find someone to schedule that at this specific time during the week?" Because that's what we're talking about, intentionality.
Mm.
It's the
Yeah.
idea of like, "Hey, could have it done in the middle of the week, or maybe I'll just do it in the evenings or have my wife do it, whatever it is." But you've decided we're going to take this money and we're going to use this over here so that we can have, like a daddy day a
Mm.
daddy morning, and we're going to go for a hike. I mean, go fishing, go somewhere new.
Yes.
And I just love that idea of creating. It's not even like a specific memory. It's more just like the the routine of like, hey,
Hmm.
Saturday mornings with dad. It's just quantity time creates quality time is sort of one of my things. So
Yes.
if you're just only trying to create these magic moments and that's it, once a year or twice a year versus like, hey, Saturday mornings we're gonna do this thing. So has that been a
Well,
pretty cool like success?
yes, it is. And I mean, I think the kids expect it, which is nice to expect to have time with your dad. But
Yeah.
one of probably the seed thoughts I had for that idea is my pastor in New Zealand. So at the last church we went to, so 4 years ago, he would sometimes make the comment. He used to be a campus pastor.
Okay.
So he would sometimes make the comment to me when we were talking about parenting. So he would be like pastoring, university age students, and parents would come to him and say, "Hey, Ian, my 18-year-old who's just starting university, he or she is really struggling. We've been having a lot of strain on the relationship in the last 2 years, whatever. We're worried about them going off the rails. Can you look out for them? Or what can we do to make sure they don't go off the rails?" And I don't know if he said it to their face, but said it to me. What they should have done was make sure they had a relationship starting at least 8 years ago or 10 years ago.
It's too late now.
There's the damage is done. So I think they're adults now. Like
No, I
the
I mean,
time
I'm
to form them
laughing,
as
but, like,
parents is done.
I'm laughing, but it is I think that's one of my, like, big messages in
Hmm.
this show is, like, don't wait, to get these things started. When they're 16 plus,
Mm.
18, your ramp is gone, and
Yes.
I've recently come across this group called Real Man.
Oh yeah.
It's Are you familiar with Real Man?
No, I'm not.
Okay. There's a guy actually local here to me, Greenville, South Carolina. His name is Ed Sweeney, and I'm actually gonna be having
Mm.
him on the show soon. But he started this ministry called 3 Generation Ministries, and, it's all about, sort of dads raising their kids so that they can raise their kids
Mhm.
in the faith and, to be a real men, real men,
Mhm.
helpers, providers, sort of life skills kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
but they say, you should start this thing. And it's like a 7-year program, but it's not
Wow.
like 4 times a year. It's like it's a very like gappy type of thing. But they're like, the ideal age to start this is age 5. And I'm like, age 5, that's so young. Like they don't know anything at age 5. But
Mhm.
if you think about it, like as the time gets on, I mean, my son is 9 now. He's
Mm.
mowing my yard and is starting to mow some of my rental properties. And I'm like, well, what else can he do? And like, what else should he have like, I'm starting to get these like wheels spinning of, just sort of like he's only going to get smarter and stronger and more independent
Mhm.
each year. And if you haven't really thought about it or have a plan, you're you're behind, or you do it now kind of stuff.
Yes.
So anyway, so for all those listening, feel free to look up this thing, Real Man. But it's a great sort of dad program, and for you, Jono, because is your oldest a girl or a boy?
Girl. Yeah.
Girl, and she's
4
4.
4 years old. Yes. Yeah.
And then is it a son who's 18 months?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, son, 18 months. Yeah.
okay. So I mean, we started with the boy, so not that, and we have a girl next, but I think it's just a beautiful role to play
Mhm.
in your kid's life to lead them as a dad. And if you're not careful, it will just go right by you.
Mhm.
So that intentionality of raising your kids is very, very important. Any other
Mhm.
thoughts on that idea or
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about this recently because I'm reading. I just finished reading First and Second Kings. Now I'm in Second Chronicles. I just found it really interesting how you know, s- basically from the time of David and Solomon, the history of Israel is kind of a slow downward trajectory. But every now and then you have a good king or a semi good king, a bit better than the last one. But I found it interesting. Quite often, each of those good kings, they did not raise up a good king to follow them. So yes, they had a good impact in their lifetime, but they did not do a good job at raising or teaching the next king, their son,
Mhm,
how to be a good king.
mhm,
And so I've just had this impression that even if you're successful in your own lifetime, what is the impact you're really leaving if you haven't trained up your children like how to be good adults, or if you're a believer, have you trained them how to follow God?
mhm.
I'm not sure how much success matters if you haven't helped your kids learn how to do that.
That's it's interesting. I'm thinking of the ministry of Christ, and did he talk a lot to dads and like sort of like
Hmm.
was he was this something that was not discussed? And for me, the verses or the ideas, the themes that come to mind are, I think, probably more in the Psalms and Proverbs of the blessings that are
Mm.
given to the, it does talk about like generational wealth or generational blessings, as well as like generational sin and generational,
Hmm.
problems. And I don't know if that is talked about enough in Christian circles, but just the I think instead of talking about the negative, I would choose to say, hey, it is such a blessing to have your son, carry the faith. And then probably the like overflow blessing is to see your son carry the faith to his son and his, your
Yes.
grandkids. So
Hmm.
that's kind of like to me the ultimate like win is like to
Yes.
see your grandkids be men, be leaders and be men of faith. And that doesn't just happen. And yes, we can't control our kids to, do exactly what,
Hmm.
they're their own people, but,
Yes.
what a challenge, what a mission. I feel like that's such a worthy mission to take on.
I feel like it is because I've often felt like I'm challenged and overwhelmed by the thought that I need to. How do I even train my kids how to do that? I feel like it is a very serious thought, but I think it is more achievable than what a lot of people realize. Again, if you've got the approach where you're just gonna, it's like dropping pieces of sand in a bucket. If you do that all
Mhm,
year, you have a bucket full of sand. If you just do a little bit at a time, so
mm,
keep it easy so that you can keep doing it. It's amazing how much you can teach them. So for us, we try to keep it simple and achievable. I do not study for any like family devotions or anything. We get a I forget what it's called. It's maybe God's Big Picture story. I'd have to send you a link afterwards. But we've got a pretty good Bible story book. It's by N.T. Wright, and it's like just the right level. It's like one page story. It's just the right level of detail for our 4-year-old. So in the morning we just read that easy, and
Mhm.
then we just have a little box of you know playing card size cards with people's names on them, and we get our 4-year-old to just choose two cards, and we'll just pray for two people. So we just read a story,
Mhm.
and I'll just try and summarize in 2 sentences what the lesson from the story was or what it tells us about God. Then we'll just pray for 2 people. Easy.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime, I just read her a psalm and pray with her. It's pretty easy, but it's amazing when you're doing a little bit at a time. It's amazing how much she picks up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
John, let me ask you another question here. This is one I try to ask all the guests, but it's a dad question.
Mm.
I think perspective is very important. So, how old are you?
Uh, we're in 2026, so that means I'm 34.
Okay.
Have to do the
Well, we
math.
gotta check. After 30, it's like there's other birthdays to remember. You forget your own. So
Yeah.
you're 34, you got 2 kids, they're under the age of 4,
Mm.
from New Zealand. You're living in Charlotte right now. So
Yes.
all of that sort of mixed together. So the question is, where are you seeing dads do things right? And
Mhm.
then, maybe you could do a follow-up on where are they missing it. Feel free to answer
Mhm.
this, personally, but I kinda like the idea of like, hey, you're in the church, you're at your workplace. What's kind of like maybe just a theme or something that you've just picked up on as, "Hey, I'm encouraged by this," that I think
Mhm.
the audience would be encouraged to hear and to keep going. And then, like,
Sure.
here's a challenge of where we can improve.
Sure. Well, maybe I'll start with the challenge and then end with the positive. So
Okay.
negative and positive.
Okay.
So, and I'm really just extrapolating from my own experience.
Uh-huh.
So, if you ask me what's something that dads are missing, I feel like I mean, we just talked about it. Every generation struggles to parent well, but in different ways. And you have so many examples of that in scripture, how dads failed. I and again, this is where I'm extrapolating from my experience with smart devices. Like we all know how addictive and consuming smart devices can be,
Yes.
social media and all of that. I do wonder what impact it's going to have on our children as we're like just being zombies on our smartphones all the time.
Yes.
So we have kids growing up with the impression that my parent is here with me, but it's really important that they're on that square thing in their hands. It must be more important than I am. I kind of wonder what sort of impact that will be having. I'm not sure. Again, I think every generation has a struggle. I wonder if that could be our struggle.
Mm. Mhm.
Is I think on my phone sends me a reminder at 9:14 on a Sunday morning about what my screen time was that week. I'm always surprised. I thought I had less screen time every day than that.
This
But
isn't
it's
right.
like,
This
I mean,
Yeah.
I do a lot of work on it and I have improved a lot where I was maybe 2 years ago with how much I was using social media.
Mhm.
But, I think it says 4 hours a day on there. Hopefully most of that's for work. But even if it was an hour per day that I wasted, that's an hour a day that I could have spent with my kids. Or
Mm. Mhm.
is that 1 hour a day the thing that stopped me from teaching my
Mhm.
children about God?
Mhm.
I mean, that's a little scary to me.
Mhm.
So that's the negative. I think one thing that our generation does well is I think we're great at doing things like taking paternity leave, parental leave. It's I find it quite funny. The first time I took parental leave when our first child was born, this was in New Zealand. There was a work colleague my parents' age. He said, "You're going to take 4 weeks off work because your kid is being born. Like you're the dad. Like you don't have anything to do. Like it's not the child is not coming out of your body. Like what are you going to do for 4 weeks?" He said, "In my day, I think I took the afternoon off to be with my wife in the hospital, and then I went back to work the next day. You
Right.
young kids, blah blah blah." But I I I think, and it's my impression, I think our generation realizes that raising kids is not just the mother's role. I think
Mm.
dads want to be involved in that. I think that's a great thing for dads to be involved in parenting and being present. And a way that we can do that help our kids, help our wives, is taking some parental leave. That's a really difficult time. So I guess maybe our generation sees the value of being able to put work aside and take time to be with family. So I think that's a good thing to lean into.
That's great. Very, very
Mhm.
valid. I at least I think was brought up, and I don't think this was a detriment to my dad, but it was probably,
Mm.
the way his dad raised him, which is the dad is the provider. So
Yeah.
what does that mean? It means the more you can provide
Mhm.
financially, the better dad you are. Does that
Yeah.
mean that, the dad who's working 80 hours a week is winning? I think that was kind of the way I felt, at least earlier, in your early, mid-20s, there are no
Mm.
kids. It's just
Yes.
like, I just need to be working right now. Work, 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 work,
Mhm.
work. And I think there's truth to that, but I think there's a huge danger to that if that becomes there's just so much you don't know at age 25 anyway
Yes.
about life.
Yes.
You're newly married, you just bought a house, maybe, you got this career job that you're doing. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just, put my head down and work. And then once the kids start coming and,
Mm.
church and maybe your health starts dropping off a little bit, you start realizing maybe I shouldn't be working so long, or maybe I can, pivot over here. I don't know. And if you're not careful, I think the danger too is, my life left me. I'm divorced now because I just worked so
Mm.
much. Or my
Yeah.
kids, I'm kind of estranged from my kids because they don't even know me. They see me, when I come home and I'm exhausted. So, good points on, at least seeing that from the paternity leave. I think even in
Mm.
in England, I think it's more than 4. I think it's like 4 months or something. I don't
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
to probably fact check
probably.
that, but it's something much more over there.
Is it, that can that is fairly common over here, right? I mean, it might just be like a week or
It's
I mean,
probably 2 weeks. I think
okay.
that's I mean, I don't know what normal necessarily is for most.
Yeah.
I think I had
Mhm.
probably 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
this is when I worked landscaping, but my boss was like, "Kinda come back as soon as you can."
Mm. Yeah.
And he was back in the work, a couple days later. Anyway, I think it's probably whatever the boss values, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hmm.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today. I think as we close out, I'm going to just ask you if there's anything that I missed that I didn't say or wanted that you wanted to say to end. Any words of, you know, challenge or wisdom or encouragement. I'll let you end with that. And then even after that, I guess, if the audience wanted to connect with you, you mentioned raising capital. I like that you had said
Mhm.
it multiple couple times. You like to keep it simple.
Mm.
You started
Yes.
by investing yourself in these
Yeah.
things. So you're by no means this like new green person doing this. You've been doing it for years. And now
Mm.
you've even done it so much that you're now doing it full time and bringing other investors into that. So give us your final thoughts and then how the audience could connect with you if they wanted to
Sure.
explore more of what you're doing.
Sure. So I guess closing thought would be, be encouraged. It is possible to bring, faith and finance together. It is possible to bring down that sacred secular divide. It is possible to invest your portfolio in a way that does give you more time with family. I know that it can be very overwhelming, stressful, and even lonely trying to do that by yourself. I think it's really important to find someone you trust. To help you with that journey. Do it together. Get advice from people who know what they're doing, and that will make your journey a lot easier. So find some partners to do it with. My website is larnachcapital.com. If that was hard to understand, I'm sure there'll be a link at the bottom somewhere. Yeah, larnachcapital.com. That's where you can find me or get in touch with me.
Jono, thanks so much for joining the Invested Fathers today. To my dads out there, stay intentional, be encouraged today. You can be successful in the workforce, at church, and at home. It's possible. Don't give in to thinking that you have to just pick one. Jono, thanks for joining us today.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kenny.